So with whom do you network? Network with each other. You're getting to know your classmates, but also make sure that you know a lot of your classmates' prior work experience, internships, what was the undergraduate major, and what are people looking to do? Because one of the things that is very true, which is actually on a slide coming up, is if you ask people graduating from any kind of graduate programs in any school in the country, if you ask them what the source of their new job was, probably 75% of them would say, I got the job that I'm now in because of a referral from a classmate. Somebody told me that this company was looking for a marketing manager. Somebody was looking for an assistant coach. Somebody was looking for an assistant athletic director, and because of that referral, I got an in, and then I took it from there, interviewed, and got the job. So the next question is, how do you go about this stuff? And how do you go about trying to figure out networking? Now, one of the things that I think is really important is don't try to network in a way that is kind of counterintuitive to your personality. Network in a way that you feel is comfortable. Don't be something you're not. And the way you network and with whom you network obviously going to vary by logistics and distance. So for example, imagine you hear that there's a conference or a convention of sort of sports leadership, and you think, oh, all right, I can go to this conference. Look at all those people. There are hundreds of people at that conference I can walk up to that I don't know, introduce myself, network, collect business cards. I can walk out of that conference with hundreds of new contacts. Here's the problem with this as how you network. Raise your hand if when you go to a party and there are people there that you don't know, you tend to almost always gravitate to the people you don't know, meet a bunch of new people, and then leave the party thinking, wow, that was a really fun party. I met a whole bunch of people that I don't know. Raise your hand if you tend to do that. Okay? Now, raise your hand if when you go to a party you notice there's a whole bunch of people that you don't know, but there's also some people that you do know. So raise your hand if you are more prone to spend most all of your time talking to the people you do know, having a good time, but then leaving saying, wow, I didn't meet anybody new. Okay? So, if you just raise your hand, how comfortable are you going to feel working the room? Going person to person and introducing yourself and giving your little elevator pitch and collecting cards. What will happen is that is not your personality. Just like when you go to the party, you leave and say, oh, gee, I didn't get a chance to meet anyone new, because you chose not to. Trying to do something that doesn't come intuitively will be exhausting. You will do it for a while, and then you'll just finally withdraw. I got a few business cards. That was kind of helpful. There's like 180 more people here I could meet, but I'm just not feeling comfortable about going up after person after person after person. So for some people, milling around and spending a couple hours at an event like this is a magnificent way to network. For a lot of people, it's counterintuitive, and it's not what they're kind of made of. So there is this thing called a phone, and I'm sure a few of you have one. So the idea of networking can be phone conversations. It is an easy way to begin to have a conversation. You can set up a conversation based on an email and arrive at a time to talk on the phone. And if you feel that that's an easy way to begin networking, it's a fairly easy way logistically to begin to network. You can also send people emails, do Skype conversations, and on LinkedIn. You can also decide that what I'm going to do is try to set up an informational interview with someone I want to learn from at their company. Now, a wonderful, wonderful thing about an informational interview is very, very frequently, if you're meeting somebody at their office, you're going to meet more than that person. Because imagine the logistics. I pick you up at the front door, we shake hands, I walk you to my office, and we're walking by other people, and I'm very likely to say, oh, I don't think you've met Bill. Bill, this is Joe. Joe's here for an informational interview. So as we're walking by to get to my office, what's likely to happen is, A, you get to look around and say, what is this environment like? What is the culture like? What does it feel like? And it's very likely that you will meet other people along the way, which accomplishes even more than I'd like to have lunch with you. Okay? The bad side with an informational interview is, I've heard this said before, there is no such thing as a purely informational interview. If I'm meeting with you in your office, I am forming an impression, like it or not. And I might decide to walk you out after the meeting and introduce you to a bunch of people because I'm impressed with you. And I think we had a good meeting, and I could imagine you working here. So the good news is that may happen. The bad news is you may not be prepared. You may not conduct the interview on your end as well as you could have, and you could have formed a bit of a negative impression in that informational interview. Coffee, lunch, or dinner is wonderful, but you should be ready to pick up the tab. This will, every once in a while, cause you to say, well, gee, having dinner with somebody will be a great way of having a networking conversation. However, this allows me to perhaps not choose the nicest restaurants in Richmond for the place to have this dinner. Maybe someone will pick up the tab. Don't look at somebody meeting you for a networking dinner as, of course, they'll pay. Okay, so the good news is it's a nice conversation, usually somewhat quiet. Some people are very intimidated by the idea of having dinner with somebody. Oh my God, what do I order? Oh my God, what do I wear? Oh my God, do I have spinach between my teeth? All of these things are real things that some people worry about. Some people like this environment. Some people feel like networking in a different way would be better for them. So highly effective networkers do a bunch of things well. One is they're patient, like the story I told in the beginning. Networking does not always take a year to unfold and come to fruition, but sometimes you need to be patient and realize that relationships that you're building take time to unfold. People are busy. Now, here's another audience participation question. Raise your hand if you always respond to emails as quickly as you know you should. Raise your hand if you know you should be quicker, but you're kind of busy and you just don't get to everything as quickly as you might like to. The people you are networking with are the same. So when you send an email to somebody saying, I enjoyed meeting you at such and such an event, I'd like very much to follow up and arrange a time to talk, and you don't hear back in a week, don't assume that they hate your guts and don't want to talk to you. Assume that they're probably busy. And you might need to follow up, you might need to forward your initial invitation so that what they're now seeing is, oh yeah, this person sent me an email last week. I've had a lot of alumni say to me, tell people to persevere. Yes?
Is there such thing as too many follow-ups?
Yeah, 14 in a week is too many. There is a difference between effective follow-up and stalking, and there's a gray area in between. But example, I send an email on a Saturday, and I don't hear anything. It's now been 9 or 10 days. That's not stalking. That's what I would call effective follow-up. And again, it's also the words you use. Okay, I can't believe you haven't gotten back to me. What's wrong with you is not an effective follow-up. Okay, I'm sure you're very busy this time of the year, and I know your time is precious. But as I mentioned in my earlier email, I'm very interested in talking with you about your company and what you do. Please let me know if you might have a few minutes for me. I would say 3 emails like that, and if no one gets back to you at all, you can either A, give them up for dead, or B, try another communication vehicle. If you feel like it, pick up the phone and call them. Worst that happens is you get their voicemail once or twice, and you leave an articulate, pleasant voicemail that says, you know, I'm very interested in talking with you. And sometimes people won't get back to you. But we'll talk about this a little later. Very frequently people will, especially if there's some kind of bond that you have. VCU alum, VCU student. Okay, VCU alumni are a very loyal bunch, and oftentimes they're very willing to help. So what highly effective networkers also do is they don't walk up to someone they're networking with. What's your first name?
Nick.
Nick. Hey Nick, I'm John Wirth. I'm really looking forward to talking with you today. Now, you work at Nike, right?
Yes.
You know, what do they do? Not a good start. Now, it could also be John Wirth Shoe Company, or it could be John Wirth Enterprises, and I got your name from someone that I should call. And what I'm feeling is I'm really busy. I have a lot of classwork, and I don't have time to do this research crap. So what I'm going to do is just have the time to talk with him and say, so what does your company do?
Make shoes.
Okay. How hard would it have been for him to know that beforehand in today's world of the internet? Okay. All you got to do is go and take 10 minutes, go on the company's website, learn what they do, learn where they have offices. Example, I worked at Deloitte Consulting for 10 years as an MBA recruiter. Every year I would get someone who would say in an interview or in a cover letter, The research I've done about the consulting industry has shown me that Deloitte Consulting is a major international consulting firm. I'm thinking, gee, thanks. That must have taken a long time. So going a little beyond that would be good. I know you have 25 offices in the United States. I know that your major industry practices are healthcare, manufacturing, and financial services. An industry interest that I have is financial services. I'm looking to move back to New York after graduation and would love to know more about the financial services practice in New York. Okay? That's going beyond the, I know a tiny bit. You will be in conferences, in conventions, in group settings, receptions, and things like that. What you want to do in the way that you behave and conduct yourself is show that you have what I call good employee characteristics. Giving the person who has been talking to the recruiter that you want to talk to a hip check and knocking them somewhere into the corridor so that you can take over their spot and dominate the conversation is not exactly courteous behavior. Okay? So be gracious, and if you spend a lot of time with someone that is being very helpful to you, there's nothing wrong with saying, I have a lot more questions and I would like to spend more time with you, but I noticed that some of my classmates or a couple of friends of mine are also interested in talking to you. Introduce someone to the person you're talking to. It goes noticed. Okay? You're demonstrating cordial professional behavior. So what highly effective networkers do not do is ask for favors. Networking is not a favor. Okay? You're not asking for a favor. You're asking to learn. You're asking for an opportunity to talk and learn. Busy people make errors. And what happens is sometimes the idea of sending out a bunch of cover letters, you get a nice little template, and you do mail merge, and you think everything's cool. John Worth, Deloitte, and then you forget to look later, and you merge the wrong name of the company in. Every single year, that would happen at least a couple times. And it's because people are busy, and they don't proof, they don't think about that part of how they come across. When you arrange a time to talk with someone that may have been set up on the phone, it may have been set up at a time when you met them at an event, or you send them an email, one of the things that you want to think about is what is it you want to accomplish in this networking conversation? And one of the things you want to do as you are meeting people and building relationships and having several conversations is, we're not going to talk about cover letters today, but imagine you are networking and you're meeting 2 or 3 people and you're forming a good relationship, and then you find out that there's an opening that really interests you in that company where they work. So now all of a sudden you say to 1 or 2 of these people that you're networking with, I just want you to know that I'm going to be applying for a position of marketing manager. And is it okay with you if I name you in the cover letter as someone I've been networking with? Let's go back to Inside Ambassador. Okay? So I name, what's your first name?
Shanita.
Okay, so I mentioned in the cover letter that in addition to the research I've conducted about your company, I've also talked several times to Shanina, who has told me the following wonderful things about your company. Now, imagine I'm the person reading that cover letter. And I know Shanina. What am I likely to do upon reading the cover letter? Call Shanina. So, you know this guy, John Worth? Now, the reason I say ask for permission is it's a courtesy, okay? But secondly, it's not going to help me any if this hiring manager says to Shanina, I just got this email from this guy, John Worth. Do you know anything about him? Who? John who? That name doesn't ring a bell. This is not going to help you a heck of a lot. So what you want to think of is ask for permission because it's a courtesy, and also let someone know that they might be getting asked about you.